This is the demo on the C Mill builder. First thing you do is get your ring that you're ready to build. You can check, see what size you got, 7.5. And also kind of be cautious of, or conscious of what size this is. If you look here, it just fits inside of the 10 millimeter, because if you look, these are individual 1 millimeter blocks. So you got 5, 10, and this is just inside the 10, so just keep in mind that this will be a 10 millimeter wax, which on the C Mill it'll tell you, it'll calculate it for you. On the B Mill you'll have to pay attention because the wax isn't figured out by the machine. So the first thing you want to do is go over to your Builders tab up here, the second row, first one, and go and find the C toolpath Builder C. Click on that. This will open up a box over on the right hand side versus the left hand side on the B. We will grab our model and throw it in the model box. Now on the B you have to actually build the supports for the rings. On the C lathe it builds them for you. So when you set that in that box, it's going to tell you it's a 7.5, and this will have a ring model check mark, because if it sees the ring rail, it'll automatically know that. If it doesn't have a ring rail, then it's going to cause problems. It's not going to read the ring size, and it's not going to know. So you just want to make sure that this says ring size 7.5 or whatever you're using. Okay, you've got 4 options here. For the most part, we're going to use the first one on the bottom, which is it's got one support on the bottom. Click on that, and you can see it actually builds a little support there for you, and then it gives you center options. The last one is the plug that we usually use, so we click on that and you can actually see it. It recognizes and it builds a little green box around. That's the wax that it suggests that you use, which would be a 10 millimeter. So everything is clicked. You can see it wants the 39 by 39 by 10 millimeter wax on a base clamp. So hit next. It's the same thing. It's just making sure that that's the one you want to use. Now, if you look, this is real close to the edge. So sometimes if it's like right up to the edge, I would actually select the next size up just to make sure that it's going to cut it. But for this one, we'll do fine. Hit next. And these are the cutting options. You've got side, which is just going to cut the individual top and the bottom. You've got this one, which is going to rotate it at 90 degrees and cut the top, the side, the bottom, and the side. And then this one's even more complex. If you've got a lot of intricate design, it's actually going to go at 45-degree angles and cut that. So just be aware that the more options you use, the longer it's going to take to mill. On this one, it's pretty straightforward design, so we're just going to select the first box, which is the simplest one, which is just cutting the top and the bottom. Everything else will be taken care of by the rotary. So then we select that, hit next. Here, the center core, 6 is fine. This is a 10 millimeter wide wax. A 6 millimeter core would be perfect. The inner hub style, we want to select this and select the one that says Style 2 6 supports. Select that. After that's selected, we want to make the hub, and you can actually see it going through and making the hub. Now this hub consists of 3 pieces. It's got the inner supports, it's got the plug, and it's got this little down here, this little box, and that's the register box. We're going to see that later. If you unselect it, then you're going to have to make sure that you select all 3 of those pieces to put in this box. Now if this was a wider ring, I would actually go in and select this, the supports, hit Control C, which will copy that, and then hit Control V, which will paste that in place. And then you can take that and move it so that the support is actually a little bit wider. You can see what it's doing, and it's still in the memory, so hit Control V again. It's going to paste it again, and you can actually watch it. And then if you want, you can drag it. So there we go. So now we've got a little bit more support for wider rings. This inner support is helping a little bit more. So we'll grab all three of those supports. We want to make sure we grab that plug and this bottom register box. Make sure everything that is that orange yellow color is selected, and we'll select that in the custom hub. Put it in there. We hit next. In this box you don't want to do anything. This is the default bit. If you ever want to change bits, there's some options there, but for the most part we use the dark blue 0.004 tip bit, the 10 degree. So don't change anything there. Hit next. And these are all the operations that it's going to make. Now there's some times that I'll actually come down, and where it says part 3, open up that and I'll show you what this is. It actually comes in and it just does a specific cut right on the top of the ring. Sometimes I do that if there's a lot of detail and stuff, but for the most part the top of the ring is going to be cut on the rotary. So in this instance I'm actually going to take this part 3, highlight it, and click delete once. So what that'll do is it'll delete that toolpath, and it'll move everything else up. So you only want to hit it once, because if you delete this one, and now the new part 3, then your file is not going to work. So so if you don't need a whole bunch of extra detail on the top, you can delete that part 3. But if you don't, it might take an extra 15 or 20 minutes to cut. So now that that's deleted, whether you delete it or not, everything here is set. You click over here at Make Path. So now it's going to generate the toolpath, and it's going through. You can see it working. It's going to cut your plug. It's going to cut a little arrow in there. It's going to cut a little register on the bottom of the ring. And it's going to cut both sides and the rotary. So you can see it working and doing its thing. When it's done, you can see up here it says toolpath has been created. Now click Save Path to save the RVOC file to your drive. Now it's different than in the B Mill. This is just an RVO file, but on this it's an RVOC file, which are two different files. So we want to click Save Path, and it's going to ask us what we want to save it as. Now on this one, it defaulted back to the Revo model. So we're going to have to go in and find on the desktop which file it is that we wanted. So then you would rename it, whatever the file name of this is, you would name it. And in this instance, we'll just put test. So TEST dash 7.5, because that is the size of the ring. And then we're going to say 2 side plus rotary. That's the operation. So it's going to cut both sides plus a rotary and a 10 millimeter. So we're saving it onto the desktop. It's the name of the file, the size, the operation, which is 2 side plus rotary, and then the thickness of the wax, which is 10 millimeter. And then we'll hit save. It doesn't take very long to save this. Once it's done, it'll just disappear, and you'll see that this is saved. So then we're done here. You don't want to X out of the program, but you want to X out of the builder. So you click on that, F9, and again, you want to save this ring. And if you notice, this went to the default of Revo model. So if you just click File, Save, it's going to save it, but it's going to save it here in a folder that you'll never be able to find. So you want to go into File, Save As, and go to the desktop, and here's the actual style. It's the MR1 or 10,013 BL size. So we would hit on that, save, and we're done. That was the demo for the Revo 3 or C.